Saved it.
I think you're
All right, we're getting signal.
on your way.
Good morning. Please join me. Please stand if you'd like and join me for number 53 in the gray hymnal, I Walk the Unfrequented Road. I walk the unfrequented road with open eye and ear. I watch afield the farmer load the bounty of the year. I filch the fruit of no one's toil, no trespasser am I, and yet I reap from every soil and from the boundless sky. A beauty springtime never knew haunts all the quiet ways, and sweeter shines the landscape through its veil of autumn haze. I face the hills, the streams, the wood, and feel with all akin. My heart expends their fortitude, and peace and joy flow in.
Somebody put the step down early. I'm feeling really tall. I think Max did that. Did you do that, Max? Where's Max? Oh, you don't know? You don't know where your kid is, huh? I'm sure he's fine. Max is great. Our redirector doesn't know where her child is. Don't worry. I'm teasing you. Max is old enough to be on his own for sure. Well, welcome. There's Max. Hey, Max. I'm just talking about you. Welcome, everyone, to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where our mission is to join together to create a nourishing, liberal religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world. Or, as we say in short, to create community, find meaning, and work for justice. Welcome, everyone. We want to begin by embracing all that you bring with you to this space, all of your unique beliefs, your unique background, your unique experiences, your differences, your lifestyle, all that helps make you who you are is welcome here this morning. And this includes, of course, those who are in the room with us, whether you're regulars or joining us for the first time, you're equally as welcome and appreciated. And this includes the many of you who are streaming with us this morning as well. So thanks to everyone for being here. I have a few announcements I want to mention this morning before we take a break to greet one another. One, just a little bit of an update on Jacob Johns, our church member who, as many of you know, was in Albuquerque just over a week ago, and about a week and a half ago now was shot during a demonstration. He's still in the hospital, still recovering. I did get to talk with him for a bit this week, and he was in good spirits and very hopeful about the future, but also obviously on some serious pain medicine. And later in the week, his white blood cell count went back up and his fever returned, and I think he's had another surgery or scheduled for another surgery. So he's not out of the woods yet and has specifically requested our thoughts and our prayers. So we also have some events that are coming up I want to remind you of. One is the community auction deadline is this Wednesday. If you are planning on contributing something to our annual community auction that we use as a significant fundraiser for the church, whether it's a meal or an outing, perhaps sharing a skill, those sort of things. Please let our office know as soon as you can this week. And also want to remind you at least to mark October 22nd on your calendar. We are going to be having a fall harvest potluck on that Sunday following our second service, where we'll get to enjoy each other's bounty and each other's company. So if you plan to participate in that and want to share a dish, please bring a pasta or a salad, bread, a dessert, something like that to share on October 22nd following our second service. Let me make sure. I think that's got it. Where's Julie? I saw Julie Jose. Julie, did you get any respondents for the student sponsorship last week? You feel good? Are you covered? I don't need to make another announcement? Great. Wonderful. Thank you. Okay. I want to now invite Linda Green forward, who is the chair of our Memorial Garden team, to talk a little bit about our Memorial Garden. Would you like this?
I didn't have that before, did I?
No.
I don't.
You don't need it?
I just lowered the
No
mic.
offense. No offense. Just,
Short people got no reason.
well, at least you have a footstool.
I don't need a footstool. My name is Linda Green, as he said. I'm chair of the Memorial Garden team. With me on the team are Jean Larson, Judy Gammon, Lynn Janetian, Jan Strobeck, and our adjunct member, Julie Jose. To give you a little background of the garden, in October 2001, a visioning process by church members resulted in a consensus that a memorial garden was a high priority. Judy Gammon and Jean Larson were the leaders of teams charged with overseeing regulations and rules, construction, and raising funds. A landscape designer was hired and construction began in 2002. Thousands of dollars in construction costs were saved due to the generous work of church volunteers who shoveled, planted, spread dirt, and installed electrical and irrigation lines. From our partner church, the Jose's obtained the design of the entrance gate, which was built by Gordon Larson, Larry Hodge, and others. Now we have a beautiful garden for your contemplation and enjoyment. Our team's mission is to maintain and steward the Memorial Garden in perpetuity and to promote the garden within the congregation. That's what we're doing today. We have new updated brochures available at our table in the Friendship Hall. The brochure explains the process for the use of the garden and has the application for engraving names. The Memorial Garden Fund is held in trust by the church and is financed by members who wish to have their names engraved on a stone at the time of their death. The cost to our members is exactly the same as it was at the garden's inception. Besides engraving, our other expenses include a newly installed column, pavers to expand the walking area, and maintenance of the soothing water feature. The Memorial Garden team wishes to thank members and friends from Buildings and Grounds and other volunteers who show up when asked to assist in the upkeep of the beautiful space on our church grounds. Today, we invite you to view the garden, walk through the serenity, and feel the love that has been put into those surroundings. Jean Larson and Julie Jose are leading tours. Other members of the team and I will be in the back at the table with our new beautiful brochures to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda, and to the team for all your good work over the years on the Memorial Garden and for everyone who's helped support that. So let's take a couple of extra minutes here this morning to greet one another. As always, say hi to those you know and look forward to seeing on Sundays, and make some new friends today. And if you're joining us for the first time, please don't be shy. We're so glad to have all of you. All right. Thank you so much. There'll be more opportunity to visit during our social hour following the service, so please stay around for that. For those who are visiting us for the first time, the coffee and the tea is hidden behind that wall right there, so help yourself after the service. So we now light our chalice, the symbol of our faith, the symbol of our unity and our solidarity, of our openness and our inclusion, of our community and our individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope to those in need, and may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost, and cast a healthy shadow of doubt wherever it's been found.
Our opening reflection today is Mary Oliver's poem, The Journey, chosen for its theme of moving forward despite challenges and conflicting voices. One day, you finally knew what you had to do and began, though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, though the whole house began to tremble and you felt the old tug at your ankles. "Mend my life," each voice cried, but you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do, though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations, though their melancholy was terrible. It was already late enough, and a wild night, and the road full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice, which you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save.
Please stand. Join me for number 82, This Land of Bursting Sunrise. This land of bursting sunrise, all lavender and blue, its cloud-strewn light swept day skies flow, and every day renew. To east the glow of dawning
We are now going to kindle our candles of care for those who are most on our hearts and minds. And we'll begin today with the candle, as we have been, on behalf of the people of Ukraine and that part of the world that are being impacted by the war and violence there. And I'm sure most of us are aware that there's been escalation of the violence in the Middle East again this weekend, and the Israeli Prime Minister has said that his country is at war, which of course impacts a lot of people. So we kindle a candle for the people of Israel as well as for the Palestinian people who will be caught up in the violence, often indiscriminate violence that's going on there. We also light a candle, another candle, for our friend Jacob Johns, and hope for his wellness and recovery. So let's take a moment of silence on behalf of others that you might be thinking of, and as always, you're welcome to name them aloud at this time if you'd like. Those named aloud and those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering in our world at this hour, we hold in our community with compassion. And we now gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which helps sustain this community and our mission to the larger world.
When the sun sets, the rivers are rosy, and a shiver runs through fields of wheat. A suggestion to be happy seems to rise from all things and moves toward the troubled heart. A suggestion to taste the charms of the world while one is young and the evening is beautiful. For we move on as this wave moves on, it to the sea, and we to the grave.
Free I'd like to invite our children to roll on up to the front. Kids, isn't it a treat to hear this music in church every Sunday? Have you ever heard an opera song before? Yes. Yes? You would consider that opera?
Yeah, art song. But
An
yeah,
art
opera.
song. Okay. Wonderful. It's pretty cool to hear that. Well, this morning in church, Todd will be talking about change and how some things change over time and how the most important things stay the same, even when everything around them changes. Unitarian Universalism is changing, and the North American Unitarian Association is helping to keep some of those most important things special. And when I think about change, I think about technology. I'm 40 years old, but oh my goodness, have I seen technology change in my lifetime. When I was 9 years old, I don't think we have any 9-year-olds, do we? So right in between you 7-year-olds and 10-year-olds. When I was 9, I got my first cassette tape, and it was by a group named In Vogue, and I thought they were so cool. I see some nods from the audience, yes. And a couple years later, CDs came out, and I listened to the Dave Matthews Band nonstop when I drove in my car back and forth from home to school. If I still had those CDs, I could play them on this CD player that I found in the RE office. But I don't have those CDs, and so I can listen to them on my phone, right? How many of you listen to music on a phone, on your parents' phones? Yeah. Okay, you might even have your own phone. It makes it so easy for us to listen to some of the songs and artists from decades ago. The type of technology has changed, but something important has stayed the same. I can still listen to great music. Let's look at something else I found in the RE office. Do you know what this is? It's Frozen. Okay, I know Frozen is a divisive movie. It's love it or hate it. I personally love it. But do you know what this disc is called? Yes, this is a DVD. Before DVDs, of course, there were VHS tapes. We have a few DVDs in the RE office, it's true. Netflix, in fact, just mailed out their very last DVD for rental because most people just stream their movies and their TV shows on devices like their phones, right? The type of technology has changed, but something important has stayed the same. People can still watch movies. In Unitarian Universalism, we've been using the 7 principles to guide our faith since 1985. And that was a long time ago, right? Wow. I mean, that's when people were still listening to those cassette tapes. You what?
I'm reading about the Native Americans in school.
You are? Well, and they've been around since 1985 and way longer, right? So the question we have to ask, are those 7 principles the changing technology or the important unchanging thing? There's a lot of people debating that right now, but we know that as long as we find people to move forward with who want to embrace technology and also keep those important things special, we can change and change again and again, and we'll be okay. And now join me in singing the children out to Children's Chapel.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
As we move into a time of meditation, you're invited to find a comfortable, receptive position. Close your eyes if you wish. Take a few deeper breaths and reflect on these words from Ray Bradbury's novel, Fahrenheit 451. Oh God, the terrible tyranny of the majority. We all have our harps to play, and it's up to you to know with which ear you'll listen.
drifting by. You know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. River running free, you know how I feel. Blossom in the tree, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good. Dragonfly out in the sun, you know what I mean. Butterflies all having fun, you know what I mean. Sleep in peace when the day is done, you know what I mean. And this old world is a new world and a bold world for me. And I'm feeling good. Stars, when you shine, you know how I feel. Scent of the pine, you know how I feel. Oh, freedom, it is mine, and I know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good.
Madeline, Maura, thank you both so much. It's just amazing. And I think very appropriate for my message this morning. Carl Sagan once said that you have to study the past in order to understand the present. I think this principle explains why I'm often so long-winded. Because, as a logical person, I try to trace the historical trail of breadcrumbs that led to whatever I'm talking about. As philosopher George Santayana famously said, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. It's also true that by forgetting or ignoring the past that we can get lost while journeying toward the future. Like lost little Hansel and Gretel did after the birds ate the breadcrumbs that they'd left on the ground to help them find their way home. Without the breadcrumbs, without history, we may know where we want to end up, but we don't know how to get there. We know the end, but we can't remember the means. We've lost our way. In Unitarian Universalism, Enlightenment liberalism is our ideological home. And its principles, reason, freedom, tolerance, rooted in our commitment to the inherent worth and dignity of every person, are the breadcrumbs that guide us in any direction by reminding us where we come from. They are the principles that will get us where we want to go. They are the means to our ends. They are our way. Several years ago, I began noticing many in the Unitarian Universalist Association weren't necessarily adhering to these values anymore. They weren't going about things in a liberal way. And the more I noticed it, the worse it got. This began not in our pews, but among the leaders of our association, both its ministers and some of those heading the association. It was subtle at first. There was less tolerance for different thoughts, and some, especially older white males, felt increasingly unwelcome to speak freely at collegial gatherings. At its gatherings, the UUA began focusing mostly on a particular brand of anti-racism at the exclusion of additionally important matters. Then in 2017, when a job applicant claimed she wasn't hired by the UUA because of white supremacy, the association went berserk, acting as if the absurd and unsubstantiated claim must be true, and that rooting out white supremacy from our congregations was now the only and entire point of our religion. That was the impetus for me writing the Gadfly Papers, which documented the worst instances of illiberal and un-UU behavior I was aware of, while reminding us of our true history and historic values, that is, while tracing the breadcrumbs. My intention was to make those in our pews aware of what was happening so that we might make a course correction before things got out of hand. My plan was to give the book to at least one member of every congregation represented at the 2019 General Assembly that year, which happened to take place here in Spokane. And my hope was that this might help slowly spread the word about what was happening. Instead, within just a few hours, I was banned from returning to the assembly. Within a day, 2 letters were signed by hundreds of ministers calling me and my book racist, homophobic, transphobic, ableist, classist, without citing a single sentence. How could they? They could not have possibly read it in that short period of time. Within a month, I was fired from Meadville Lombard Theological School as an adjunct professor, where I'd earned my doctorate without explanation, and was censured by the UU Ministers Association, and by the end of the year I was disfellowshipped. That's our term for being excommunicated from the official order of UU ministers. As difficult as all of this was to go through, the shocking and knee-jerk response to my book proved its points far better than anything I'd written in it. And it helped make the Gadfly Papers the best-selling book among Unitarian Universalists ever. So if you don't want somebody to read a book, don't ban it, for goodness sake. Alas, my expectation that such awareness would have restored sanity to our association has since been dashed. At one point in my book, I asked the UUA to be transparent about this institutional change, so those who may fundamentally differ with this approach can offer their dissent, or at least decide if they wish to remain part of it. Up to that point, their efforts to rudimentarily change our religion into its opposite had been clandestine and secretive. But since the Gadfly Papers, after years of trying to discredit me and my book, they have begun to do exactly as I asked. They have come clean about their intention to fundamentally transform our liberal religion into something else, into what I consider its opposite. Sadly, these intentions remain shielded from any meaningful criticism or serious discussion. In the Gadfly Papers, I also predicted an almost inevitable split by those deciding to abandon a faith that has abandoned them. Although the serious tone was a call to prevent this likelihood, I ended my book saying, I hope it doesn't come to this. But if it's the only way to remember and recommit to our once cherished principles of reason, freedom of conscience, our common humanity, then we will have no other choice. For me, the final straw came in spring of 2022 after it became apparent that the UUA had abandoned our commitment to democratic processes. Not only by stifling dissenting opinions, but by holding sham elections, the outcomes of which had already been orchestrated, including what would effectively be the appointment of the next UUA president by only a handful of individuals. Shortly thereafter, as I had also previously predicted, the UUA leadership announced their intention to remove our 7 principles from its bylaws, some version of which have been around since the association was formed in 1961, and the current version, as Stephanie said earlier, since 1985. At that point, after nearly 4 years of pushing back, reminding the UUA of our historic values, and attempting to appeal to the better angels of their natures, which would require them to have conversation, it became obvious things had only worsened and that we were only wasting our time and our energy. So in December 2022, in a sermon entitled "The End of an Era," I announced the formation of the North American Unitarian Association, NAUA. Although it took a bit longer than expected, by March, our steering committee had received our articles of incorporation from Washington State. We had our preliminary website up and were able to receive members, 37 of whom joined the first day. I don't even know how they knew about it. We could accept contributions, and thanks to everyone who has been supportive so far. And we could already provide a few basic services, including NAUA Academy courses, a monthly worship service, a monthly clergy support gathering, and our excellent digital magazine, The Liberal Beacon. Shortly thereafter, we formed a provisional board of trustees and went to work creating a provisional set of bylaws. Now, these are both considered provisional until we have our first annual meeting when our members can officially elect board members and approve official bylaws. See, that's part of our tradition, to respect the democratic processes. Of course, we have to have a board and we have to have something to go by, so we're calling them provisional. Between members and subscribers, we currently have over 700 individuals involved with NAUA. We have many who've joined as individuals, although the larger portion of our members were included when their organizations joined. So to date, we have 4 organizational members: the UU Congregation of the Shoals, which is in Florence, Alabama. Hello, guys. The Hayward NAUA Fellowship in Hayward, California. Hey, everyone. The UU Church of Spokane in Spokane, Washington. Hi. And UMIAC, who are spread all over the place, based in Chicago. That's the acronym for the UU Multiracial Unity Action Council, an organization founded by the recently deceased Reverend Dr. Finley C. Campbell, whom we miss deeply, that exists for the purpose of uniting, as their website says, the light-skinned and dark-skinned people of the world. When an institution joins NAUA, all of its members become our members, unless an individual requests to be removed from our membership list. Unlike the UUA, the Unitarian Universalist Association, everyone who is a member will have a vote in our elections on all important matters, not just a few delegates. This is the 21st century, and we're not using boom boxes anymore. We have the technology to make sure that this can happen. Unfettered democracy is essential to any organization claiming to be liberal. This has to be a top priority, even if things don't end up the way we might think they should. This is why NAUA is committed to providing a ballot in every box. We will not send our virtue signaling emails out complaining about voter suppression in our wider society while our own association is stifling dissent and orchestrating the outcome of elections. We hope to have our first annual meeting within the first year to year and a half of our existence, which I believe we are actually legally required to do, so we're working on that. We now have enough devoted members to have begun pulling together various committees and teams of volunteers. Having reached such a point after only a few months of launching is more than I could have hoped for. Building a solid committee infrastructure will ensure that NAUA is sustainable and not dependent upon the efforts of a small group of people who can only do so much and are subject to burnout. To date, in addition to our Provisional Board of Trustees, we have a membership committee, a worship committee, an NAUA clergy support committee, an NAUA academy committee, a website committee, an editorial board, and a ministerial service committee with several more in the works, like a financial committee, international ministries committee, and an annual meeting committee, among others. So please let me know, or us know, if you are interested in joining a committee. Ministerial services is another area in which NAUA will substantially and philosophically differ from the UUA, and I want to spend a little bit of extra time on that this morning. I've been a Unitarian Universalist long enough to know that most of our members, including many of our ministers and ministerial aspirants, right, students studying the ministry, falsely believe that a person becomes a minister once they are approved by the UUA's Ministerial Fellowship Committee, the MFC. This belief is not only wrong, but it is also an affront to liberalism and to our liberal tradition. The UUA website currently states that the Ministerial Fellowship Committee, MFC, has jurisdiction over all phases of ministerial credentialing. They wish. That's audacious. Who gives them that power over our autonomous congregations to say they will credential? Or I don't work for the UUA. Never have. You don't have any say over my credentialing. Okay. Certainly not over all phases of it. And they have fooled a lot of us into believing this is so. Here's what the UUA bylaws actually say in Article 11. Each member congregation has the exclusive right to call and ordain its own ministers or minister, but the association has the exclusive right to admit ministers to ministerial fellowship with the association. That says nothing about all phases of credentialing. I have always found it remarkable that the UUA chose to contradict the centuries-old right of our congregations in the very same sentence in which they affirm it. Congregations have the exclusive right to ordain ministers, but the association has the exclusive right to admit them into ministerial fellowship. To understand the significance of this is an instance in which we need to trace our historic breadcrumbs. In this case, all the way back to the Reformation, when our peculiar ministerial tradition began. Prior to then, ministers and priests were ordained and placed by the authorities. Congregations had no choice in who their ministers would be, nor who would become a minister. But during the Reformation and the Renaissance it led to, during which an emphasis on human welfare and human dignity first began to emerge, there were those, as Unitarian Historian Charles Howe says, and their numbers were large, who were seeking a religious community of free spirits, one with no set standards of belief, little formal organization, and no prescribed forms of worship. Although they were hard to define because of their diversity, Howe says, these people became known as Anabaptists, a name that means rebaptizers. They earned this nickname because they deeply believed religion should not be forced on anyone, but should be a matter of individual choice. So they rejected the validity of infant baptism since infants had no choice in the matter. They would only accept those who had freely chosen to be baptized again as adults. That's our tradition. That's where we come from. Respect for individual choice. This idea was considered heresy by both Catholics and other reformers who persecuted the Anabaptists out of existence, although their remnants went on to become Baptists, Mennonites, and us, Unitarians. In fact, it was among these Anabaptists, Howe says, that the Unitarian heresy, and incidentally the Universalist heresy as well, first broke out during the early years of the Reformation. This is when we were born on this principle. Side note, I often hear Unitarian congregations in particular say, we need to get more children in our churches. The children are our future. Right? It's not so. I mean, the children are our future as a planet, for sure, as a species. But as Unitarians, we're based on bringing adults in. Right? We're a religion that grows because there are people who are out there thinking individuals who are looking for something different, and they come. Right? In these days, with population decline, I like to remind us that there are more old people being born than there are young people. So that's the demographic, but it's the demographic because that is our ethic. That is our ethic. We want people to come who choose to be here. So to this day, Baptist and Unitarian churches are autonomous and, as the UUA bylaws admit, have the exclusive right to call and ordain its own minister or ministers. But, as these bylaws also indicate, the UUA has fashioned a work around this freedom, which leads them to believe, in their own words, that they have jurisdiction over all phases of ministerial credentialing. It's ridiculous. This presumptive overreach, which should be considered the antithesis of the free religion our theological ancestors died for, has allowed the UUA to strictly control the flow of ministers to our congregations and given them the final say, not us, in who gets ordained. Right? We will approve them and then send them to you to ordain. We don't get to ordain them until they've been sent to us, approved. And in recent years, those aspirants who don't ascribe to the association's particular belief don't get credentialed, and our congregations never knew they existed. And increasingly, those like me who got through the MFC before all this began are having our credentials stripped and our names placed on the UUA website telling the world we are abusive bullies who are ethically unfit for ministry. That's how I'm listed. This illiberal, unjust, and destructive chain of ministerial supply unnecessarily cost our congregations thousands of dollars in what is a very restricted and controlled ministerial search process. In my opinion, it has also resulted in the worrisome ministerial shortage the UUA itself is now experiencing. In what it called a bellwether moment, a May 2023 UUA communication to members of the UU Ministers Association explained that for years the transitions office would hear from about 25 to 30 newly fellowshipped ministers looking to consider congregational ministry. 25 to 30 new ministers a year seeking a church. The last 2 years, it's been 5 ministers, then 8. That's an alarming shortage that has left dozens of congregations unable to even find interim ministers. There may be many reasons for this shortage, but I believe the UUA's authoritarian and illiberal approach toward ministry must be partly to blame, as is the toxic environment that now exists in its seminaries. In our attempt to restore liberalism to our liberal religion, NAUA will handle ministerial supply much differently. We're going to handle it like liberals. We're going to get rid of the but. There will be no buts. It's a few rumps, as I say, but no buts. NAUA not only recognizes the exclusive right of our congregations to not only ordain, call, and install their ministers, but also to decide what credentials they will require. Some may require less experience and education than others. That's fine. It's up to them. Ours is a tradition in which many of our greatest ministerial figures came to us directly from another religion. Like the great John Dietrich, who came to our church after being declared a heretic by the Dutch Reformed Church in 1911 and went on to become the founder of religious humanism. I myself was an ordained Southern Baptist minister when I began speaking at a Unitarian church, and did so for years before I was fellowshipped, and am still doing so years after I was disfellowshipped. In fact, I believe that credential has become an albatross around the necks of UU ministers these days. It's not a credential. It's a credential that calls their qualifications into question. Ours, the NAUA system, will be a clearinghouse in which congregations and ministers in search can easily contact each other, see and contact each other, and find each other any time of the year free of charge. You don't have to put away thousands of dollars to send a search committee all over the country or to bring candidates in all over the country. In this way, we will enrich and diversify our pool of ministers. Now, this particular service is a work in process, but already NAUA has done much else to restore the kind of welcoming, open-minded, and supportive community that its members were once accustomed to by allowing us to work with and learn with and visit with and worship with other Unitarians and Universalists during our many regular kinds of gatherings. And I believe this is the sort of community and atmosphere that will continue drawing others to us, including ministers, wishing to serve communities that genuinely respect the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Our liberal tradition began with the Anabaptist profound belief in the necessity and right of adults to make their own decisions, including choosing their own ministers. And this remains the deepest belief of NAUA. We are here to serve and support our members, not to govern them. It is this commitment to our first and guiding principle that I will end with. Until recently, I had suggested NAUA members maintain membership in the UUA. And this is still your choice, of course, but a couple of weeks ago, during our most recent NAUA Academy offering, Left versus Left, What's Happening Ain't Exactly Clear by the brilliant Ken Ing, Ken showed a line from a UUA study action issue approved in 2018, one that I had missed, stating, "Decentering whiteness calls us to decenter individual dignity for our collective liberation." Decentering whiteness calls us to decenter individual dignity for our collective liberation. There's a lot packed into this indigestible word salad. Firstly, decentering whiteness is a euphemism that conceals an approach that seeks to level the playing field by bringing some people down instead of lifting everyone up. This is not our way. The term collective liberation likewise conceals the postmodern doctrine of collectivism that believes individuals must be sacrificed for the sake of community, the state, or any authority. As the founder of postmodernism, Rousseau, said, "We will force them to be free." And most disturbing of all is this call. Not sure who's doing the calling here. Is that God, maybe? God is calling us. Most disturbing of all is this call to eliminate individual dignity. The very core, the defining principle of what it means to be liberal. If the UUA is no longer committed to this principle above all, it is no longer a liberal religion and no longer shares my values. So I've decided that I can no longer in good conscience remain a member of the Unitarian Universalist Association, in rejecting the inherent worth and dignity of every person, no matter the color, their color or status in the world. It has adopted a destructive, divisive, and harmful ideology that I cannot be part of. This week, I will send a personal correspondence to the UUA asking them to remove me from their membership rolls, something I'm sure they will be eager to do in my case. This week, I'm sorry, I've already said that. So this really is a huge decision, since I've been involved in this for so long, so much of my life. But because NAUA now exists, I have nothing to lose in doing so. In leaving the UUA, I won't lose my spiritual community. I won't lose my values. I won't lose my ability to continue making a meaningful difference in the world. In walking away from the UUA, I don't have to walk away from my religion. I'm still part of something bigger than myself and bigger than our local congregation. So are you. But I must walk away. If the UUA someday turns around, we will be here with open arms. But for now, I can no longer justify being part of an organization that I believe has become a harmful and dehumanizing presence in the world. From this point forward, I'm not interested in the UUA. I will focus my attention and energies on the good work NAUA is doing and all we shall continue to accomplish to help liberal religions survive and thrive. And I close with deep gratitude for the members of this congregation who have continued to support me through all that we've been through together these past years, and for the many of those near and far who have joined NAUA and are now volunteering to help build our budding association, helping it become an important and meaningful presence in our lives and in our world. NAUA would be nothing without you. So let me close with another brief anecdote. In the Brothers Grimm story I mentioned earlier of Hansel and Gretel, it isn't just breadcrumbs the twins drop to find their way home. Crumbs that easily get snatched up by the birds. They also drop some shiny stones on the ground, which don't show up very easily on a forest floor during the day. But at night, during their darkest hour, the moonlight shines upon them to illuminate their way. Today, Unitarian Universalism is experiencing one of its darkest hours ever, yet we too have shiny stones to illuminate our path. We call those stones freedom and reason and tolerance, rooted in what remains our central commitment to the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Some may succeed in snatching away a few of the crumbs that we've dropped along the way, but these values remain solid and shall continue to guide us. For this is our way. Thank you.
Please stand if you're not already standing. Thank you, Todd. Yes. Join me for number 300 with Heart and Mind.
Our benediction today is from author and foreign policy analyst Iveta Cherneva. Headed to the top. The only question as I meet you on my way is if you're coming with me or not. Amen, blessed be, salam alaikum, and shalom.